What the fuck, man? Listen, I delve into some true crime here and there, like podcasts like Lights Out, which isn't exactly true crime 100%, but, Lights Out is entertaining and it kind of covers that narrative sometimes. Well, there is this YouTuber. I've never heard of this YouTuber before, but she is relatively popular. Zav Girl. I was working on a video about the Hank Green situation, but, well, I guess that's on hold for now. Zav Girl does not get a ton of views on her videos, but Zav Girl gets a pretty decent amount of views. That's why she keeps up consistent content, or rather, she did. But well, I'm pretty sure that's gonna stop sometime soon. So Zav Girl, she has a Patreon, apparently, allegedly. Well, she does, not apparently or allegedly. She just straight up has a Patreon. And Zav Girl posted a mm, Hmm. I'm trying to figure out the best way to deliver this, or you know what? I'm just gonna rip off the fucking band-aid. Zav Girl had exclusive content on her Patreon that would allow you to see autopsy pictures of an 11-year-old boy. What? Why? How did she even attain these? These are definitely not public record because, well, this individual is obviously a minor. How the fuck do you even get this? But a generalized overview of the situation about the actual case itself. There was a stepmother who had tragically, well, she murdered her stepson, and it's just awful. I will read a small excerpt to show how tragic this is. Over 3 years, prosecutors said that she stabbed Gannon, which was the kid's name, 18 times before hitting him in the head and then shooting him once. Prosecutors claim Stauch killed the boy in January of 2020 because she hated him and wanted to hurt his father, Al Stauch. His body had been recovered from a suitcase. That is beyond terrible. I believe it was well over 1,800 miles away from his home, which is just beyond terrible. Like, this kid had a full life ahead of him, and, he could have had kids and grandkids. It would have been an amazing thing to see this kid, well, go on in life, but unfortunately, his piece of shit stepmother took that away from him. She also took the father's son away. She took a potential brother. She took away a nephew. She took away a grandson. It's terrible. It's beyond fucking deplorable. And true crime is, from what I understand, it's about like raising sorts of awareness and paying respects to the victims, which I, 100% support. It's an interesting genre, and people who like psychology can look into the minds of those who are, well, pieces of shit. There's nothing wrong with covering this. However, there are fine lines you cannot cross. A big fine line is, well, if it's for the sake of content and these autopsies are public record, you, in all reality, you are allowed to use them for educational purposes. But this is not what true crime aims to do. There are channels on YouTube that, look into more mortician sides of things, coroners, stuff like that, which they use example autopsies, which are public record, to educate. This is not educational. Sharing the autopsy of an 11-year-old boy who was brutally tortured and murdered by his piece of shit stepmother, nothing about that is educational. You're just profiting off of this unfortunate kid's death. But going back a little bit, the mother had told authorities tons of different stories since the dad was away on National Guard deployment at the time, or I think it was Coast Guard, I can't remember. But, the dad was deployed at the time, so he wasn't home. He trusted the stepmother to watch his son, which is perfectly this is a reasonable request. When the kid went quote unquote missing, that's what, Stauch told the authorities that, like, oh, he didn't come home, or she made up some fucking wild stories, man. I'm not even going to go over like all of them, but some of them are fucking nuts. But, she got caught lying and now she's facing trial. And she did a terrible job of hiding everything. They found traces of Gannon, the kid's fucking blood on her shoes, in her car, in a bunch of different places. They traced the ballistic markings of the bullet that was fired into Gannon's head, led it back to the gun, which, funnily enough, had Stauch's DNA on it. I think it was fingerprints, but I could be wrong. Apparently, I'm gonna do some more research on this, but apparently you can just make a public records request. I think that's what it's called, and you could just obtain a lot of information. I understand the Freedom of Information Act is like a prevalent thing, but I just can't believe there's no way, because there are laws that protect minors, living or dead. It protects their privacy. It protects everything like that. I do not believe, I'm not saying she's doing anything borderline illegal, but I'm just saying I think it's hard to believe that Zav just like, hey, can I have that autopsy of the 11-year-old boy who was brutally tortured and murdered by his stepmother? Like, yeah, thanks. Like, what the fuck? There's no way, but I could be just very naive and ignorant. I didn't even know that was a thing. A public records request, I didn't even know that was a thing. I knew that information, like there are certain autopsies that were made public, like fucking like Tupac's autopsy and Michael Jackson's. Those were public record. I hope. I'm saying I hope because I've seen them and I don't want the FBI breaking down my fucking door. In all seriousness, I did not know this was a thing. I'm getting mixed signals. Apparently the fucking autopsy photos of Gannon were public, but I don't think they were. They were shared in confidence with the jury, and that's it. But the thing with this is it's like this video is 3 minutes long. You think it would be a quick apology video. It's not even an apology. She's just making excuses. I'm not even gonna play any snippets of the video. She explains how she obtained the files. Okay, cool. Then I don't know why this is relevant. This is not relevant to it at all. She's like, oh, well, I just, one of the interviews with Letitia, motherfucker, just apologize. The apologizing isn't going to fix shit, but holy fuck, get to the point at least. Motherfucker. Dude, she is just sitting here just like, well, I shared it on Patreon. So, I thought someone wouldn't share. Motherfucker, there are people who will share anything off of Patreon. And nevertheless, you shouldn't have even put this shit on Patreon. It's just as simple as that. You are essentially charging for autopsy photos. Jesus Christ, man. I didn't think this would be that difficult to think about. I understand if maybe there are some things in there that are a little uncensored, but not an autopsy photo. Maybe it's a little bit more raunchy, in terms of, getting the point across better, or somebody wants to watch unfiltered content there are lines you cannot cross, and this is common knowledge. Everyone knows that. Excuse me. Everyone knows that there's lines you can't cross, especially those in the true crime community, because they're walking on a tightrope as it is. People in the true crime community are the most meticulously careful people I have ever seen. They show enough, but not too much. They are meticulous with everything they do. This motherfucker does not fall within that category. This literally makes me so unbelievably sad. I feel so bad for Gannon and how his story has been exploited for profit. Maybe that wasn't her intention, but she still did it. So it doesn't matter what the fuck her intention was if her actions were still bad. I understand I've heard people argue against this, but desensitization is a huge thing. I worked in the medical field for numerous years. Although I wasn't like a doctor or anything like that, I still saw a lot of shit. I have been in a way desensitized to, some forms of gore. I've been seeing people with their heads blown off or some shit like that, but you know what I mean. I've pretty much been desensitized to general workplace injuries, but never in my life, even if I were to become a detective or a coroner, I would never be desensitized to a child's autopsy or the dead body of a child. But this thing, this autopsy, I know I'm bringing that up a lot, but this is where the problem is. This is not desensitization. You're just pushing the boundaries of being a fucking idiot and not understanding the most basic form of common sense. Let me repeat those for all those out there who, maybe you need a refresher. You do not share pictures of a dead child ever, unless it's in the court of law and you need it for evidence. I know, that's crazy. I never thought I would have to say that out loud. I don't know. This is I wish I could say it's making me sick to my stomach, but it's not. I'm just more sad and a little bit more angry than anything that somebody went through this, thought this is a good idea. Just hey, I'm going to put all this shit here, put this meticulously crafted video. Yeah, we'll just throw in the autopsy in there. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, 11-year-old kid dead. Yeah, fuck it. And then throw it in there and then upload it to Patreon. Nobody's going to share it publicly. At the end of her video, she's like, I have a lot of she's like, I have a lot of reflecting and soul searching to do. I don't. Is she gonna go to the Shaolin temple and find a Zenin master so she can just sit there and she's like, That's not even derogatory. I don't know. She'd probably do some shit like this. She looks like a goddamn nutcase. Anyway, that is really all I wanted to cover from this. Well, just straight up tragic situation. My heart goes out to the victim and his family. Not for the stepmother though. Fuck that bitch. But in all seriousness, it just, it sucks, man. This shit happens all the time, unfortunately, and you may not hear about it a lot, but it happens everywhere. Please just take the time to thank those that you love and those who are close to you. Because the next day, you never know, they might be gone. Anyway, I'm done rambling, and this is a shitty situation. I wish I didn't have to make a video on this, but hey, content, I guess. In all seriousness, though, that's about it for this one. I'm going to upload another video soon after this one. So, as always, good night and be safe.